All right, so this topic is very important to me, is near and dear to my heart, and hopefully it is for you as well. Now, we all hear how many times when people bring up let's just say the continent of Africa, they make it seem like all countries are not doing that well. They're all pretty much desolate. All the people there are, I guess, poor. They don't really have clothing on them. It's just a worse situation. And what I try to say when I do come across people that think like that, I try to tell them, like, no, there's 54 nations. Not all nations are in the same position. Here are two. I usually go with Rwanda and Botswana. Here are two that are actually doing very well. You need to learn about them. You need to know about them so that you don't come across as ignorant. So I don't know. Maybe if you all come across people like that, then this is a way. This video is the goal is to educate you all so that you understand, hey, yeah, there are two countries that started like not so well, and then now they're in a better position. So that's the goal of this video, just to educate you on these two well-performing countries. I would say it's two of the best countries in as far as performance and economy and governance. These are like the two best ones in Africa that I've just research, and I do want to visit both of them. But before we get into it, if you're like me and you love West Africa, you want to see West Africa do better, you understand that it's going to come from the private sector, entrepreneurship, building businesses and supplying jobs to people. It's not going to be the government that does it. It's going to be us. And if you want to be in a position where you want to be that hero for your own small town, your own vision, your own area, your own region, whatever it is, then you definitely need to get started. You need to get help. And one way to get help is to understand the importance of personal development. Before you do anything in life, if you don't develop yourself, you don't develop your mind, then you're just not going to go far. You're going to stay at the same level. So you need to find a way that you can get to the next step, to the next level, so that you just continue to grow. And what I have done was create a 7-week course that actually talks about the details of just the fundamentals of business. That part is always going to be in there. You can find it anywhere, but something that I don't see a lot of people do, which is talk about just the personal development side. So if you're looking for a way where it's all tied together, you don't have to waste time going from video to video, then you definitely want to come over, check out my 7-week course. It takes 7 weeks to do it. You can't just rush through it, but very impactful, a lot of good information, a lot of practical stuff. I really want to make sure that it's not just telling people just the technical side, but it's also talking about, hey, these are some steps that you can take right now, some action steps that you can do in order to start seeing that progress so that you don't lose hope. So and then at the end of the day, the goal is to help other people, to be in a position where you can help other people, and you don't get mad at, let's just say, rich people, famous people like rappers or artists, musical artists that don't seem to do a lot for their home community. You don't have to be one of those ones complaining. You can be the person that's in that position to help out your own community back home, or if you're in the US, UK, anywhere else in the diaspora, you want to help your own town where a lot of you all are together, or whatever your goal is, be in that position where you're the hero instead of looking to other people. So we got that. If you're ready to get into that, the first week is most of the content is just available for you to check out before you actually go in and pay for it. So I do give a little bit of a test run for you, so you can check out exactly what's in it, or just get the vibe what's in it, and then you can see if it's for you or not. And then also, if you're in the DMV area, then definitely check out my meetup group. So one is just focused on entrepreneurs. The second one, mostly about Yorubas, but anyone can join. It really started just trying to learn Yoruba, but if you're interested in really focusing on West African culture, just doing different activities, then definitely want to sign up for this. And then this last one is really geared towards conversations, debates, topics on, it's just polarizing topics that's going on the continent, wherever it's interesting or whatever's going on at the time. That's what I created this group for. And as you can see, these groups are pretty young. I do remove members that are not active, so I try to I don't like a whole bunch of members that are just there and they never show up. So if you're in the DMV area, then you definitely want to check out you definitely want to check out my meetup groups. I'm gonna leave all the links to all this stuff in this video's description. So it's gonna check out all my videos, and always look at the description of the video. I have a lot of links that you could check out that's going to be beneficial to you. So never forget to look at the video's description. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. So let you know what's going on in a lot of just what's going on in West Africa, and just the problems that we continuously hear about. So either it's going to be corruption, it's going to be just lack of opportunities, it's going to be climate change or the flooding that's going on recently and just keeps going on. So there's always some issues that's going on in West Africa. And if you're like me, you get frustrated of hearing bad news and just negative news, and it doesn't help when it seems like most people around you kind of have that I'll say not so much defeatist, but a no hope type of attitude, and then it kind of drags you down. So if you're in that position, I wanted to create this video so that people understand, okay, what are some things that other countries have done, Botswana and Rwanda, in order to turn their countries around, and how they're doing well right now. So at the moment. So that was the premise of this video, just to educate some people and also to give you some thoughts to think about of what you can do yourself. All right, so a lot of talking. I'm gonna go ahead and start getting into this video. So I already talked about just a lot of the social challenges that's just happening in West African countries. Just of course the high poverty rates is always there, the political instability, and just inadequate infrastructure. Healthcare, lack of access to healthcare, education. So it got me thinking about which countries are really interesting to know their journey and how they got to where they got to. So the first one is just Botswana. So it's kind of hard to find just pictures that I wanted to actually show to represent what I want you, like the before and after Botswana. So it's just a Google photo search, and then what's amazing about Botswana is just I'm gonna talk about their history, but how they're able to achieve success or achieve this economic development just by great management of its natural resources. So if you don't know, Botswana has high resources in diamond. It has a lot of diamonds. So usually when you hear about natural resources in African countries, it's just exploited no. So Botswana was able to manage its resources effectively, and it transformed itself basically from one of the poorest countries at the time of their independence to now it's one of the most stable, prosperous nations. So, and you could this is a interesting picture where this is 1960. That's about when they got their independence. And now you're talking about, obviously you can see the before and after. A lot of development has occurred, and this one lady is just looking at a diamond. Okay, there you go, clarified a little bit, but they've just done a lot. And it's because of the diamonds. Like, it was blessed the way it all happened, and I'm gonna get into it. So this is what I noticed about Botswana, and really it started with the history. So I'll give it. It's not gonna be an exhaustive type of video. I just want to just pick some points of how Botswana started, and basically it started with the Hans people, or the San people. My mistake. And basically it was Bantu speaking states in the 18th and 19th century. The Europeans start to gain contact with these nomadic people. As you can see, they're very some of these, you could tell some of these pictures are very current because they're in color and they look sharp. So this is generally how they look like. So, but in the beginning, of course, the Europeans came in contact with them, and then they made a step. They didn't so much colonize them. It was more so a protectorate. I can't say that word, but they basically just established, okay, these are the barriers. No one else can come, or all the other Western powers, you can't touch this place. and they called it Bacana land, and it was under British rule in 1885. And just the British didn't really invest into it. They didn't see the land as anything special, so they just kind of just left it alone. They was really focused on, or so much on South Africa, so they didn't really do too much about. They didn't do too much about this country. So, just moving towards independence. So, post World War II, there started to be more demands for just independence, and then you had leaders like so the main leader of the Botswana movement, his name was Sirtis Kama. Let me see if I can find his picture. This is his son, but I'm gonna find a picture of him. He was an interesting character that I learned about. I want to make a new. Yeah, this is him. So this was the first president of Botswana. And it was interesting. What's interesting about him is that he married an English girl, so that was a bit odd at the time. And but he was brilliant, he was smart, and he wasn't corrupt. And so after that World War II, Botswana was asking for independence and just to separate from Britain. It wasn't a war, but there wasn't anything going on. So they got their independence, and then at the time of independence, it was just really poor. So, Botswana faced just significant hurdles, and it was an agriculture-based economy. It was really small, had limited infrastructure, and it was relying on South Africa because Botswana is landlocked, and South Africa, is just bigger, and then it has the ports. So after a little while after they got their independence, then they discovered diamonds, which was great because the British couldn't claim it. So imagine if the British had been looking around, they found the diamonds, it would have been a different story. So this is some luck on their end. But the British weren't there. They got their independence, Botswana. They found some diamonds, and now it's just that's when everything started to really go in their favor. So because of the governments, they had effective management, they weren't corrupt, they weren't greedy, and they made sure that their diamond revenues, they had control of it. So they weren't they weren't just looking out for themselves or their families like we usually will hear. It was actually trying to develop their nation. So they started investing in, I think the first thing that they invested in was healthcare. There was a lot of people getting sick, and HIV was really big around that time. So they was really focusing on healthcare. And then from there, I think the next strategic move was to work on the infrastructure, roads. Like they definitely want to work on the roads. And I think after that came education, or maybe it was before, but they had an actual system of where they're gonna put their money in first. So because they had a plan, because they was all working together, it wasn't an issue of tribal wars, and they didn't have those issues. Most of the people were just from the same tribe for the most part, and their culture it wasn't about just fighting all the time. So it was peaceful. So they went ahead, they start investing all that diamond revenue money into their economy, and then it just started to change a lot of what the country was before, and then just get into the progress that they want. So this is just one of the groups of people. Damn, there was another. I don't know if I have this Rwanda. Yeah, so I'm gonna get to Rwanda. Where can I start? Damn, I messed this all up. So I gotta. Yeah. So, but anyways, I'm just gonna talk about it from just from my notes and what I got going on. So yeah, so there you go. So the government invested all the revenue that they got from the diamonds, they invested in themselves, and next thing you know, they become a prosperous nation. They're doing very well. There's plenty of videos that what do you call it? Historic, they go through everything as far as the details of how a country goes all the way from this position to all the way to the other position. Plenty of videos that do that. I recommend that you just watch one of them, just a biography of Botswana, and you can see how they came up to where they are now. But they have a strong democracy. They always had good leadership. Even when it came to changing leadership, there was no issues there, and they're just doing very well. So if you're talking about just keys to success, is what we expect. You need good governance. You need good leadership, responsible management of natural resources. This is the biggest. Some people call it a curse to a lot of African nations when it has a lot of resources. You see what's or maybe you hear about what's going on in the DRC, where you have a lot of mining of cobalt for all the batteries, the metal that's required for all these batteries. Everyone wants to be energy. They all want to use electricity, get away from fossil fuels. Well, there's always a trade-off, and in this case, it's just digging for cobalt. And a lot of the people that are digging for cobalt are children. So you got that going on in DRC, and then the people that are digging in the DRC, they're not seeing the benefit right now at this moment. So it's December 24th. They're going through their elections, and there's been nefarious things that people are claiming has been happening. But so anyway, so they invested the resources the revenue that they got from the diamonds, invested it back into just the infrastructure, and they also invested in the human capital, which is really important. A lot of people. So this is what a lot of people miss so unfortunately, just by the way a lot of these African nations got their independence, there was really, because of the British and the colonization, there was always, in France, there was always some animosity as far as, okay, they're giving you freedom, it seems kind of off. So a lot of them start looking at, even before then, a lot of them was just looking at, okay, who's Russia, who's the USSR, Russia. I mean, all that stuff collapsed, but they was really looking at communism as a way to turn things around, and socialism. So there's no individuality. It's more so a collective type of thing. And a lot of these leaders that was coming out, they was just like, hey, I'm gonna be at the top, and I'm gonna make sure that it's like a top-down type of process. If you understand communism and socialism, you understand how it works. So I'm not gonna get too much into it, but so a lot of them was just focusing on that. A lot of them was just focusing on, okay, the government has to do everything. The government has to do everything. Well, the government is not efficient, and this is an important part that a lot of Africans need to understand when it comes to, just from what I've heard, and even just being in the U.S., how a lot of West Africans think is that the government is supposed to be in control of what goes on in the country, or as far as controlling the outcome. The government has its role, but it really should be limited and small, because the government is not efficient. It's just not. It should, in my opinion, it should focus on national security and mass transport. So going through the different areas, that's what it should be focusing on. Those two are the main things, and then you can add in a little bit of healthcare and stuff like that. But it's the private sector that's supposed to make everything come together, because the private sector, that's where the creativity comes in order for a nation to build and to grow. The government is not going to do it. The same way a lot of people say, oh, the government needs to give jobs, they need to help with jobs, or there's been job loss. They don't. It's that mindset of thinking that the government is supposed to provide for you, which is, no, you don't want that, because it doesn't work. They tried that in the Soviet Union, it doesn't work. Cuba, you see what happens in Cuba, communist country, when the government is controlled, it just doesn't work. They don't have a monopoly on ideas. What you want is a strong private sector that creates the jobs. But because a lot of people are ignorant on just economics, they think that, okay, the big old government is here, they have a lot of money that's coming in from natural resources, then the government is supposed to take care of all their problems. It doesn't work that way, and it never works that way. So that's what you have going on. That's what I hear a lot of people just focusing too much on just what the government is doing and what they're not doing. And I'm like, I just try to tell them, like, look, the government needs to stay out of most as much as possible, and they need to focus on this terrorism issues that just keep on going on. It's up to us, the people, the private citizens, that's supposed to be creating the businesses that hire people, so that the economy keeps on churning, and then we can figure out, okay, how they're misusing tax dollars and stuff like that. So I just want to point out some of the really 2 points that came from Botswana and their governance. They focused on, so of course they focused on fiscal management and investment in key sectors. That's how they obviously got their economic growth. They were strategic in how they used their resources. So they had a plan in the beginning. It wasn't just okay, we're gonna sell all these diamonds and then we're just gonna put it in the pot and then, okay, something comes up, we'll do this. Like, no, they actually had a plan and then they executed that plan. So they stuck to their plan and they was able to do amazing things, and their country's doing very well. They had low corruption. So because of their strong governance, they had anti-corruption practices in place. And also, just as a people, and that wasn't their culture. They held each other accountable for their actions. It's not like I remember I was watching an interview with one of the people in government. I think it was one of the former presidents. He was just like, okay, they keep saying this democracy, and the guy's like, our people already practice this. Like, this is not some Western concept. We already know what to do. And this is another thing that I've noticed just in my own reading. A lot of these, just from focusing on West Africa, a lot of these West African tribes, they already had their own system of governance, and it was working, and they had checks and balances in place. But when you have a foreign power come and introduce something that's foreign, it gets corrupted, and it's not natural to the people there, and then you see a lot of the mess that you see now. So Botswana, they just had low corruption. That was their culture. So they already held democratic principles, so that wasn't an issue as well. The political environment was pretty much calm and easygoing when it came to transition of power. There wasn't no issues. People are not trying to fight like that. That's just not in their history. So of course you got low corruption, you have better institutions that can maintain that stability. You have confidence in the government. There goes the trust right there. So if you're trying to buy a house or a property, land, if you're trying to start a business, you understand that, hey, you don't have to, like, okay, I'm just using Nigeria. You don't have to worry about keep paying bribes upon bribes upon bribes. And then it just makes the cost go higher, and then you start second guessing, like, you know what, this is not the best place to do business here. Like, they keep asking for all these extra funds, and I'm just not feeling it. So that corruption just destroys the business atmosphere. So with Botswana, they didn't have that. People had faith in the law, the rule of law. They know there was checks and balances in place, and one person or crew or whatever, it can't just go rogue because it's so far out of the country, out of the culture. So of course with their institutions, accountability, transparency, very important in government operations, so that people understand. It just builds more trust. If you're transparent about what you're doing, you shouldn't be hiding anything from the people, especially if they're electing you to do some type of service. Then you shouldn't be hiding yourself. It just doesn't work. So that's Botswana right there. Botswana's doing very well. Go ahead and just look at some of the videos of Botswana. It's really nice. And I want to visit there to see how everything is. I just want to see for myself. A lot of these countries I want to really visit. So next, we're going to talk about Rwanda and its remarkable transformation. And let me see if I can find a good video. Oh, come on. I hate when it takes a while to like focus. It looks blurry. I'm sure it looks blurry on you, but you all can see kind of how these buildings are. Let me look at this. Okay. I don't know what year this is. Maybe go on X. Let's talk about the year. Doesn't really talk about the year, but I mean, you could see just the difference in growth. So this must have been around 1960, probably when they get their independence, and then now, or what's current. So let me go back. Yeah. So this is generally how, Rwanda is emerging as a strong tech hub in Africa. Let me see. I mean, that's nice. Yeah, I definitely want to visit Rwanda as well. So they got good things coming on. So most of us, we know Rwanda for their genocide, but even before I get to that point, and I'm gonna bring out some points from that. I just want to talk about how pre-colonial Rwanda was. So Rwanda was basically a centralized kingdom with a complex social structure from what I've read, and it was dominated by the Tutsi monarchy. So during the colonial era, first it was the Germans that were ruling, and then it was the Belgium. And what started to happen was there were ethnic divisions that were already there, and then they were exacerbated by the colonial powers, which favored the Tutsi minority over the Hutu majority. And this just lead to issues. Now, I don't know why, I can't remember why they favored one over the other, but that's just what it is. So when people say, okay, it was the Western world had a lot to do with the issues, like, yeah, like they were, for whatever reason, they were showing favoritism to one group, which apparently was the minority over the larger group, and then over some time it's just going to be a problem. So I'm just showing some pictures of how it was. Why does it always look the same? It's like one white guy just sitting down, and I guess he feels like he's God. He's probably, maybe he's like reading I don't look like a Bible, but I always see these pictures. I don't know what they're talking about. This is an interesting one. It just looks so odd to me. But anyways, so then you got independence. Rwanda gained independence in 1962, but however, this did not solve the ethnic tensions, and it just continued to get worse and worse. There was violent spats here and there, power struggles, really between the Hutsis and the Tutsis. So everyone knows about those two. Those are the two main groups. And I mean, 1994 came, and then that's when the genocide happened. So these are just some of the pictures of genocide. It was brutal, and they estimate over 1 million people were killed or slaughtered. And I mean, it's just devastating. You can kind of see what schools here and stuff like I mean, you just, it's brutal. A lot of machete attacks. A lot of people's getting killed off of that. And I mean, even this, I clicked on this before, and it was just, oh man, it was terrible. So genocide is killing the people. Then there's a site that talks about, I was just going through some of the pictures and stuff like that and how brutal it is, just so you understand what was going on. So this is 1994, ain't too far ahead. And I mean, it's just killing fields over and over and over and over. Looked like she was like, I mean, just terrible. So I'm not gonna go through all the pictures, but just to give you, so they said about 1 million people were killed, and I was just curious. Okay, what does 1 million people look like? It took about 90 days, about 3 months to kill 1 million people. So if you're in the U.S., you understand. I'm just looking at all the cities, and it's like the whole city of Austin. Everyone just dying inside that city. The population in 2022 in Austin, Texas, 974,000. Or Jacksonville, or any of these. It's like all these people dying in 3 months. I mean, just the stench of dead bodies. Just the lack of, I mean, it's terrible. So, I say, just pertaining to a lot of the coups that's been going on in West Africa, and even the issues in Nigeria, when people seem so eager, okay, yeah, let's just do the coup, let's go to war, or the tensions between the northern Nigeria and southern Nigeria and the back and forth, and let's do it. Like Nigeria had their own, a lot of these West African countries, we had our own civil wars, but it's like, you know, when you're far removed from death like that, you don't really think about the implications of what you're actually saying. So a lot of people just call, no, we just need to go to war. I can understand the sentiments of thinking like that, but if you take some time to really sit back and think critically, it's like, no, there's a lot of innocent people that are gonna die. And it's just like, nah, like anything you can do to avoid it, that should be the goal. So yeah, I just found that interesting. So if you're wondering, okay, 1 million people, yeah, it sounds like a big number, but what is it actually? It's like the whole city of Austin just dying, just collapsing within a duration of 3 months, which is really fast. So, but so that was going on. Mass slaughter of the Tutsis, Hutsis. So post the recovery, Rwanda really faced tremendous challenges. Obviously, they had to rebuild their economy, and then they had to foster like a national reconciliation. Of course, bringing the perpetrators to justice, and just restructure, recover, and do everything that they can to like just come back to where they need to get to. So now Rwanda, I mean, you can see how Rwanda is now. It's looking beautiful. I really want to go to this thing right here. But I mean, really developed, lights, power. They did a complete transition from to the major tribes hating each other to just turning into something like this. Like this is amazing. And they came from a genocide, I guess almost 30 years ago. Yeah, it's like almost 30 years ago, and they're able to transform like this. So I mean, just think about it. Like your country was just almost smashed to nothing, and like you had to get where you get the money from to rebuild. How do you rebuild from that type of trauma? Like almost like a million people that die within like 3 months, like families just destroyed. Children don't know where their parents are. They're dead, and it's just, how do you rebuild from that trauma? But they was able to manage it and do it. So then the question is, what did they actually do? Well, it starts with leadership. And this is where Paul Kagame comes in. If you don't know about Paul Kagame, then you definitely need to look him up. I'll show you. He's the president, or he took over when it came to just Rwanda getting its act together. He emphasized strong governance, economic reform, vision for a modern Rwanda. Let me actually put in Paul Kagame, because he's still in control. Trying to see, so he was part of the Tutsi family in southern, fled to Uganda. So a lot of people was fleeing to Uganda during the whole genocide. And I'm trying to see, there's a part, he started becoming familiar with just the military, and I wanted to, maybe I should do, if you go and look him up on YouTube, like there's a whole documentaries on him and his leadership. But he pretty much was the leadership head that was leading Rwanda forward. Now a lot of people, or you have some critics that call him a dictator, because he's been in a position of power for a while, but he's been voted in, from my understanding. He's always been voted in, and it's not like he was just staying there or he was using military force. Now, of course, I'm sure there's some nefarious things that he's done during his whole tenure, but he was the one that was really in charge of just bringing Rwanda from their past and moving them forward. I've met people from Rwanda, and what they would say is, you can't, it's it's like real taboo if you mention like, oh, I'm the Tutsis or like they acknowledge it, but you can't bring it up or else it's a real big thing. So he made sure that anyone that's going on that tribal stuff, like you're going to be dealt with type of thing. And the way that he transformed Rwanda, like it's one of the best governed countries in Africa, and they're doing their thing. So with some key elements of the transformation, so you had visionary leadership from Paul Kagame. So because of him, he was able to have that vision for a modern Rwanda. He made sure that the ethnic groups weren't fighting each other. He really tried to foster a national identity over tribal divisions, and just building that cohesive society. Like if too many people are fighting against each other, it's just not going to work. Situation like Nigeria, where you have all these different ethnic tribes. You got the northern part, and then you really got southwest, southeast, and it's always kind of a rotation of power. It's just a mess. And I just think the way the political system is set up in Nigeria is just it's not conducive to long-term growth. Like there's always going to be infighting. So, but anyways, so he made sure that there wasn't any division amongst the ethnic groups. And then he was also investing, just like in Botswana, he was investing in infrastructure, healthcare, education. You need to invest in the people, the human capital, and also the infrastructure, so that it also attracts people from outside to come into Rwanda, give their money, and also to do something, bring their expertise and do something in Rwanda as well. So some of the things that he was really adamant on, let me see if I can get, let me get back to this picture so you can see some of these nice photos. So one of the things he really tried to push was leading in gender equality. I believe, in Parliament, there's like 50% representation of women, while also emerging as it's really a big African hub for technology. Already talked about the social cohesion. Like he was really big on, hey, we ain't gonna have this genocide again. This is just ridiculous. It's not the way that you should be governing yourself and going about yourself. Like, no. So he did his best to change Rwanda into what it is now, and it's definitely inspirational, because it's just like, man, almost like 1 million people died in 3 months. You didn't really have any infrastructure like that. The skill set is probably poor, and then you just transform, you like leapfrog. Now it's a small country, so it can have its advantages, but it's also landlocked. But the fact that it was able to leapfrog as far as its status in economic development, leapfrog across a country like, I would say Nigeria. Yeah, Nigeria is bigger and it has a lot of moving parts, but my goodness, like it's impressive from where they came from to where they are now. So we gotta give props to what Paul Kagame was able to do. So, all right. So those are the two areas. So that's Rwanda, First Nation, and then Botswana. Those are the two. And now we got to bring it back to West Africa. We got to bring it back to all the issues that we're having. So what are we going through? Political instability. I don't know why I always see pictures like this, but there's always some type of fighting, especially when it comes to politics. I don't like the way a lot of West African nations do their politics. They inherited a lot of their system from either France or British, and it seems like they don't take a step back to see, okay, is this working for us? Is this really getting us far? Okay, maybe some areas, okay, cool, it's working, but in other areas we have to account for, hey, we got a lot of different people, or maybe we don't really like the structure. I don't think, in my opinion, changing presidents every 4 or 5 years is wise. Because if you're a nation, so think about it, like a lot of these countries are, they're like around 60 years old, 65 years old, just from independence. If you're always changing leadership, how do you get footing? especially when I look at Nigeria and I just see, okay, well, one president will come and do some things, and then the next person will get in, and then they'll get rid of everything that the previous person did just out of spite or just want to feel like they're the boss. And then they do their own thing. It's just like you're always starting over. Like, I just don't like the way the political system is set up. I think they need to create something that's unique to them and try something different, at least for the countries that are not doing so well or not really improving like that. So yeah, we got political instability, resource mismanagement. We already know about Nigeria and its oil. That's just so unfortunate. Then education and healthcare disparities. It seems like most of these countries just focus on their main cities. So like in Nigeria, it'd be Lagos and Abuja. And let's just say Ghana is Accra. You go to Kumasi, the northern part of Ghana, I guess the central part of Ghana, I guess you could kind of say, but it's not as developed. Everything went into Accra, it's looking like. Everyone focuses on Accra, so you got that. So with that comes broken up roads, lack of consistent quality education, healthcare obviously is not going to be the greatest. And then in the case of just Nigeria, you have the ethnic and social tensions that come on with that, and you got to deal with that. So it's just a lot going on. In West Africa, I mean, you can kind of see general pictures of what it usually looks like. There's always some type of stress. There's always some type of fallout. Now, of course, there's some good stuff happening. There's some good places that you can invest in and places to visit. And don't get me wrong, but I think as a collective, we're all saying, hey, we want to see something better. Like at this point, we should be a lot further ahead than where we are now. So this is an opportunity. I mean, it's been done in these two other countries that had, I mean, recent genocide of 1994 for Rwanda. I mean, just if they're able to turn things around, then it's like we can do something similar as well. So just the lessons from Botswana and Rwanda that can really obviously make a difference and make some incredible change. Now, it also depends on the government and the people. A lot of time, I mean, you can always have illegal voting and stuff like that, but a portion of it does rely on the government. You have to have good governance. It's always going to be a factor. Of course, it's not the end all be all, but good governance always helps, and accountability when they do wrong is really important. The biggest thing though for me, and this is where I look at the private sector, where we can really just take over and do what we need to do as far as developing the country without worrying about what the government is doing. In fact, we can be more important than the government in a lot of cases, but diversifying just from natural resources that we have. So a place like Nigeria or even Benin, Benin is with the cotton. They have a lot of cotton. Ghana, it's gold and cocoa as well. Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, the cocoa, they have some issues because of the rainfalls that's been messing up with their crop yield. You want to build your country so that we need economies that don't rely on just one commodity of one natural resource, because if that goes to shit, then it's just going to mess up everything, the currency, everything that's going to be happening. So we need to diversify economies. That would definitely help. Prioritizing education and healthcare. I think this is where if the government can make an environment that is healthy and it makes sense for private sector people to come into the educational space more. Okay, it's already happening. I'm not saying it's not there, but for them to come in, have a lower cost, a lower entry barrier, whatever, and for education and healthcare, and do what they need to do, build their money on their end, and also contribute to the growth of the country, then that'll be good. A lot of these countries, it's very difficult to get land, or it's very confusing, or in case like Nigeria, you got to keep paying bribes. It just makes it expensive. Then it's just more of a headache than what you want to do, or you can't really grow like that. So if you got all that stuff in check, as far as just, just prioritizing, okay, education, healthcare, if you got the credential, or if you have something that we could see that it's feasible, then go ahead, do your thing. We're not gonna make it difficult for you. Just show us the results that you're getting. Make sure to hold them accountable, and then we go that way. So that will definitely help. Forming some type of unity. Now, the only country I see have problems with unity is really Nigeria, because there's so many different tribes. When I look at most of the other West African countries, they don't have that issue, because mostly is one type of ethnicity. So I don't think that's too much, but specifically when it comes to Nigeria, it's not so bad. But we do know there's a difference between the northern Nigeria and southern Nigeria. And it's just mindset and culture. And me personally, I don't see how they can. It'll take a miracle for there be eye to eye, but it's it's like night and day. So then of course, invest in infrastructure, some type of city planning, some type of, okay, we need some greenery right here. We need to think about the roads. Okay, what about waterworks? So plumbing, like city plumbing, instead of using bottles all the time, let's actually or if we're gonna do wells for everything, then what about the public works? Like some type of organized way of getting just regular infrastructure, public works in order. The roads, especially in Nigeria, a lot of times they just suck. Too many potholes, it's not maintained. Lack of funds, it's usually gonna be the case, or someone's just stealing the funds. So that's always going to be a big priority for a country that's trying to advance, because if you don't have the right roads, then you can't really transport equipment around, or it's more expensive. And if it's more expensive, then just a lot of the equipment is just not going to be getting to where they need to get to. And then of course, technology. You need infrastructure in order to have good technology. You need the towers, the cell towers out there. You need the cables, underground cables, in order to give you the 4G and all this the other network capability. So technology is always going to be important. This is a technological world that we're going into, and you don't want to be left behind. So these countries need to prioritize that. If they're doing all of those 5 key things, then obviously it's going to be great. But there's a lot of work, and I just don't put it all on the government. I don't believe relying on the government is going to get you there. It has to be the private sector that steps up and say, okay, look, you know what? Slowly but surely, we're going to be taking over this route, and then we have to do something with getting these failed leaders out of office somehow, because they're just messing everything up. A lot of them are. So I think as far as like a long-term vision for just West African nations, if they can look at Rwanda, I don't know if they talk with Rwanda and Botswana as far as what they've done and some examples, or if they're willing to listen. But I mean, not every country in West Africa is doing that poorly. But if they just learn from other countries that used to be not doing well and now are doing well, just watch and consult with them. Bring them in and say, okay, what are your ideas? What are you doing right? Hey, we need to do something different. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be some influence of new knowledge or information. And then once again, I'm just bringing it back. The private sector, a good relation. These governments need to have a good relation with the private sector, because the private sectors we're the ones that bring the jobs. We're the ones that bring the jobs. So when people have jobs, then they don't join terrorist groups, or they don't just create chaos. If you got something to do, then you're thinking about, okay, my future or whatever. But if you don't have anything to do, you don't have any work is really hard to come by, then people are just going to chill all day, and then the idle minds is the devil's playground. So that's important. So with that just comes reforms in a lot of these places. You need consistent policy implementation. You can't be favoring the rich versus the not so rich. need to be promoting stable governance. Like that's what we need to see some more. I mean, a lot of this stuff is just it. I personally don't have that much faith in a lot of these governments, but I don't want to just be a complete pessimist and say it can never happen, because really politics stems from culture. And if the majority of people are just like, okay, we're not accepting this anymore, we're tired of it, we're tired of the games, things are going to change. Like even when it comes to the army that has to enforce it, I think at some point that's when you start to see those coups, like what you've been seeing right now in a lot of West African countries. But that just can't always be the solution. So I did want to talk about some countries that are doing well, and just want to put a spotlight on. So the first one is Togo. So these are some countries that no one talks about, but I'm looking at them like, hey, these are the hidden gems that people are not paying attention to. So with Togo, it's a small country next to Benin. It's sandwiched between Benin and Ghana. It's on the coast, and they're making strides in their economic development. More investments in infrastructure and a growing port sector, some political reform and improved internet access. Now, when I did visit Togo, the internet was good. It was fine. It was 4G. I don't know about the president. I think he's trying to get like a fourth term, but honestly, I'm just like, hey, just don't mess up the environment. So anyways, I did see a lot of development. I think their biggest draw as far as getting people just to see the country, they need to promote their beaches, because their whole coastline is like beaches. And I remember when I was there, I just was amazed that their beaches was really nice. They had some just casual restaurants on the sand, so on the beach, and then you have the palm trees that's just covering them, and it's just sand. So like, I mean, the beach was just nice, and why don't I hear about this? So they're doing well. You don't hear about political turmoil like that so much. What else did I notice? It was peaceful, and didn't really hear about terrorist attacks or anything like that. There's no clashing of ethnicities, but it's just they don't have those issues. So definitely take a look at Togo if you're looking for places that you want to invest or just know more about. Check out Togo. Benin is next to Nigeria and next to Togo, so it's sandwiched between those two. They got their own port. They're on the coast, and Benin wasn't as so this is Cotonou. Cotonou is the main city. Cotonou, Perikou, and I can't remember the other one, but Cotonou is supposed to be the major city. I was a little bit disappointed they didn't have 4G like I wanted, but it's working. I did visit this statue. They just made it, so you know about the Woman King and the Fighters Kingdom of Dahomey. So they made a recent statue, so I was able to visit. It's a nice statue. This part of the country was pretty fresh looking. I'll say it looked good. I'll say that. But Benin is doing pretty good job. Has been trying to make their economy more diverse, invest in different things, especially trading. They have the land port with Burkina Faso. So yeah, they got their port with Burkina Faso, focusing more on agriculture and digital technology as far as just making developments in that and making that more efficient, improving in governance and combating corruption. I don't really hear too much corruption about Benin. The president, Patrice Talon, he's a smart guy. He used to be a business owner, and so he's not a dum-dum. Where is he at? I don't know. This looks like him, but yeah. So Benin is doing pretty good, and also it's been ranked the fastest country in the world with Estonia in starting a business. So you just go online and then you can register your business, and it's like I think 2 hours or something like that, and you got your business. So they're really trying to make the environment attractive to investors, And anyone that's trying to just do business, it's not like you have to be a multinational company. Like if you want to start a business in a lot of these smaller countries, they need investments. They need people to come. This is the same strategy that Asia, like Singapore, Taiwan, like a lot of these other South Asian countries in the beginning, when it was trying to get people to move in and invest, they was doing everything they can to bring in investors. And over some time, when they got a lot of investors, they start building themselves up. Now they start getting more picky. So it's just a process. Like in the beginning, no one's really checking for you like that. You got to make the place attractive. When you start to make the place attractive, then more people come, more skill sets come, and you maintain that environment for them. Then they're gonna tell their friends and family, and then more people's gonna come and invest, and then there you go. And then that's how you start to build yourself up. So that's been in. And of course you got Senegal. Senegal has always been the peaceful country. Right now they're kind of going through a little political spat right now between the president and his main opposition, and hopefully that gets solved quickly. But I liked I did go to the statue. The statue's in Dakar, and if you look at his hat, I didn't know this before, but his hat is actually, so you can actually walk into there's like an elevator that goes all the way to the top. So there's a tour guide, and they talk about the history of Senegal, and then you can go all the way to the top. And in this hat, there's actually windows. You can't see it here, but I didn't know that at first. So you can actually look out and see everything. So that was cool. But yeah, so Senegal always been known as a place of they're trying to be a business center, trying to do more developments, but just more contracts, more, what's the word I'm thinking of, collaboration. Like they're just trying to develop themselves, and they're always, for the most part, been stable politically, so no issues with them. And even economically, they've been pretty stable, peaceful country. I went around there a year ago, and they friendly people, no issues. They have a famous drink called Bissap that I love. Excellent drink, freaking love it. And they're doing their thing. So infrastructure, they're still trying to improve their infrastructure. They recently built a toll highway, so they're trying to make things more efficient. They're trying to connect other parts of the country, not just in Dakar, but other parts of Senegal together. They're trying to more investment in renewable energy and doing what they need to do in order to grow. So yeah, I like that a lot. And then I'll say my favorite is Cote d'Ivoire, Abidjan. A lot of people sleep on it. Right now they're doing AFCON, African World Cup. I believe it's the African World Cup. But anyways, it's happening. I think it's gonna be happening January. It's gonna start in January 2024. But anyway, so they're amazing. It's a hidden gem. I'm definitely invested in this place, and I'm trying to actually relocate and make some moves here because I see what they're doing. It's easy to start a business. They are the world's largest cocoa exporter. They, unfortunately, just the heavy rains that they've been having, it's messed up their crop production. This is why it's important to diversify your economy from just using regular, just natural resources. Like just you gotta, it can't just be all cocoa just because you're good at it. They're not even processing the cocoa into chocolate as well, so they're losing a lot of money from that. So I'm sure there's people that need to develop that sector, but for the most part, I mean, I liked Abidjan a lot. It was all the roads were pretty much perfect, pristine. I didn't feel unsafe at all. They just have a lot going on. I think their economy grows, I think it's around 9% every year. So they're doing a lot with their economy, and they're killing it. So, and then they're hosting AFCON right now, so you got to have some type of status in order to be in that position. So, so that's those are the countries that are doing well. So it's not all doom and gloom with these West African countries. There are some countries that are showing some progress and doing their thing. So just be mindful of it. Do your research, learn more about West Africa, all these different countries. It's not all about Nigeria and Ghana. In my opinion, Nigeria is a little bit, because it's so big, you can get in where you fit in. You can find an enclave. Ghana is just so tricky. I really don't like the leadership. I don't care for the president. I don't think he's not consistent to me, and he just seems like, in my personal opinion, he tries to act like how he thinks a leader should act, but I don't see him as a leader, effective, good leader. I just don't. So, but there's more to West Africa than just Ghana and Nigeria. I always recommend people visit more countries than those two. There's so much to see. Like, even I did a West African tour last December. Guinea was one of the countries I went to. I never knew that they had their own islands, and I mean, the islands with the beach sand and everything. I mean, it's just amazing. It's beautiful. No one talks about it. No one knows about it. So there's hidden gems all across West Africa, and it doesn't have to just be always going to Ghana and going to Nigeria, especially during December. December. So there's always different things you can do. So just to summarize the key takeaways of Botswana and Rwanda, this is like an hour. Didn't mean to go this long, but hey, you know what? We're just gonna do it. You know, let's put it on 2-speed anyway, but it's at the end of the video. So Botswana, with this success, it really started with their diamonds. Because they know how to manage their revenue, it was able to get their diamond imports and invested in the right resources and the right infrastructure, the right programs. So they was able to do that. And also just their culture of not being corrupt, holding themselves accountable was especially big. That helps with their industries, with the business industry, the business sector, and also just growing their economy. And then it leads to prosperity. When it comes to just Rwanda, the fact that they put a lot of energy into making sure that this doesn't happen again. We're gonna get rid of this tribal identity. We're all one nation. We don't want to go back to all those dead skulls and bodies all litter around the road like this is the apocalypse or whatever. We don't want to see that again, the trauma and all that. So, and now they're doing excellent. They're doing very good. So seeing how they were able to come across to surpass that path, that traumatic path, and get to where they are, it's like, okay, anything is really possible. Like you can make these transitions, and then just keeping in mind just the diverse progress of what West African countries, I guess Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, like a lot of these countries that I was talking about earlier, what they're doing and how they're transforming themselves. And they're not playing to this stereotype of just being all poverty and nothing good to look at. Like to feel pity, like for people to come and just feel pity on them, and they don't have anything to offer. It's not true. And I hear that too many times for my taste, coming from even other West Africans, especially Americans. I just hear it too many times where they make it seem like all of Africa is just one old big like they're all in the same boat, and it's just like, okay, well, you know what? You're gonna miss out. Those people are gonna miss out on the opportunity that's right in front of them. They don't get it because they just think America is the best, or they just lost hope. It's like, okay, well, y'all gonna come late to the party. I'm not. And if you're watching this, you're not gonna be late at the party. You're being educated and you're starting to see, okay, hey, there's an opportunity for the future. If you have kids, there's a better future for them here than what's going on in America and UK and Australia. You see what's going on with their economy. It's gonna collapse in the future. I don't know when, but it can't sustain itself, especially when their population is not growing. So anyway, there's a lot of positives going on in West Africa, and because I know about this is why I don't let negativity of what other people are saying like trip me up. Like they just don't know. They're ignorant on the subject. So, but with all that, I'll just say the key factor in all this development always comes to strong leadership. And if it isn't going to be the president, I think it can be you the person that has a passion for West Africa and wants to do something and takes action. You can be a better, you can have more impactful change than what some maybe illegitimate president is doing. I mean, just think about Gandhi. The people just followed him, and he was more impactful than a lot of what the Indian government or the British government, however their dynamic was set up. He was very impactful. So one person can make an impactful change, even if they're not in politics. So I'll say that's it. So I appreciate you watching this video. It's a long video, but hey, sometimes I just want to take my time and I want to just say what's on my mind, really bring out these points so that you understand fully what's going on. If this was valuable to you, then definitely like this video if you haven't already done so, and subscribe to my channel so that you're alerted when I do drop new videos. Check out my other videos on this channel as well. You might find some content, or I'm sure you will find some content that is interesting to you, so you could check that out as well. And then so subscribe, share, leave a comment down below if you knew a lot of this information, or if you plan on doing something on your own, you plan on investing in West Africa. I would love to hear it, so tell me down in the comment section. And then also look at these videos descriptions. I put a lot of content, a lot of links, especially if you're in the DMV. Join my meetups if you want to be involved, you want to connect with other West Africans. Just look at the links and just click on the ones that make sense to you. So yeah, if you want to craft your own story, you want to be successful, you want to be the hero in your life and your journey, and help someone other than yourself, then definitely get started with my 7-week business course. Really focuses on the personal development side, what you need to be doing to develop yourself first, and then you can start working in the entrepreneurial tactics and technical side as well. So until then, I'll see you in the next video.